Hi, everyone. I'm David Williams, president of strategy consulting firm HealthBiz Group and host of the HealthBiz podcast, a weekly show where I interview top healthcare entrepreneurs about their lives and careers. If you like this episode, make sure to hit that like button and to subscribe. Well, my guest today is Gabriele Brambilla. He is founder and CEO of Alira Health. Gabe, welcome to the HealthBiz podcast.
Ciao, David. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I've been reading about the company and very interested to hear all about it. I want to start, though, with your background and your upbringing, in particular, hear about your childhood, if there were any influences from your childhood that have kind of stayed with you throughout your career.
Yeah, maybe a couple of information about myself. So as you can get from my accent, I'm originally from Italy. Congratulations for the pronunciation of my last name, Brambilla. And I moved to the United States about 13 years ago, and I have 5 kids and wife here. And in terms of my education, I studied political science, so a very useless science, but it taught me how to understand very quickly that I need very smart people around me to build value and the company that we're building right now. I don't expect to be the most intelligent person in the room at all. Actually, I want around me people that are a lot more intelligent than me. In terms of my influences I had when I was a kid, people say that I always use analogies connected to sports and music.
Yeah.
And that's true. A lot of my speeches are connected to analogies with sports and music. That's because I played basketball when I was a kid for many years at the semi-professional level, and I was playing the national team in Italy when I was 15.
Nice.
And then I played drums with 3 bands, and so I love to create some parallelism between business and music.
That's nice. Now you just sort of glossed over that you have 5 kids, and I will point out that I think in Italy the average is about 0.3, and I think there's a limit of 1.5, so maybe that's why you had to come to the U.S.
That's true. I'm very unusual. I'm a very unusual Italian.
Yeah.
I have 5 kids. I cannot eat any wheat.
Okay.
So I cannot have pasta. I cannot have dairy. So think about a pizza. I
Yeah.
cannot have pizza.
Yeah.
I'm very faithful to my wife, and usually they say Italians,
I have no comment about that.
And I drive a Buick,
Yeah.
which usually says, Italian, you should drive a very fancy car.
Yeah.
No, sorry,
yeah.
guys.
Nice. All right, listen. Well, if people that all just fit all into the cookie cutter stereotypes, it wouldn't be creating great companies. So that's where we are now.
Thank you.
So, what did you do in terms of your career? How did you start off your career? I was trying to understand it from the LinkedIn profile, and it looks like you started Alira. It was something else. Came back to it. What was the start of your career like?
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to become a diplomat when I was younger, and that's why I did political science and then a master in international affairs. And then when I did for 6 months that I was in the job, I found it was really boring and not very meritocratic.
Yeah.
So I called my dad, and my dad was in pharma. And I said, Dad, you gotta save me here. Can you give me a job? Which he did, but he sent me to China for 2 years to take care of a joint venture there with Shanghai Pharmaceutical, which is a big pharmaceutical company. Came back with my MBA. And after my MBA, I was hired by the predecessor as a company of Alira Health. The company was called CMC, Klaus Michelfelder Consulting. Mm-hmm. It was investment banking. And I remember when they came to my MBA to offer me the job, everybody was saying, you should not work with them. They're too small. They were just 10 people. But I love what they offered to me. They offered to me not a salary and a package. They offered for me a budget.
Yeah.
They told me, this is the budget. Go ahead and open up the Italian office. You got to be break-even in 6 months. Spend the money as you want, but spend it wisely, because if you don't have any more money in 6 months, you're out of the job.
Yeah.
And so I picked that instead of other big consulting firms. I see that you come from BCG, McKinsey, LEK.
Yeah.
So those were the other alternatives I had. And I decided to go for this crazy one, and it turned out to be a great decision. And then in 2015, I decided to make an offer to buy, through a leverage buyout with my partner from France, from the founder, to buy CMC. And we bought it through a leverage buyout and made it Alira Health. And at that time it was really tiny. It was like less than 30 people and less than $4 million in sales. And then in the last 6 years have been a blast.
Nice.
So we've been growing a lot. We're more than 700 now and around $100 million in sales. Yes.
So I know, I guess the Italians I know are kind of outliers. So another Italian colleague of mine and client is Giovanni Colella. If you know Giovanni from Castellano. No. But he was, when he was growing up in Italy, this was more during the 70s, he told his dad he thought communism was good. So his dad sent him to the Soviet Union for a summer, internship. And that cured him better than I think anything else, including going to China.
Reality check.
So he hasn't been a communist since that time. But in any case, it sounds very good. Now, I want to hear about kind of the role of Alira and what you've done as the CEO and once you bought it out. But I also notice you have some board roles that you've done over time as well. How have you mixed that in? What else have you done besides Alira?
Yeah, so for Alira, I became CEO when I bought the company, and since then I've been the CEO. But I gotta tell you, in the last 6 years, probably every year, my job is changing. When you grow so fast from 30 people to 700 in this amount of time, you really have to adapt yourself to the new role you're gonna have as a CEO, right? And that's an exciting part. But Alira Health is also a venture arm called Alira Health Venture. We've done 9 investments, and I'm on the board of some of those companies we invested in, more as guidance and mentor than anything else. These are startups. And the other one, board seated, that I'm proud of, I always like to do community work and work for non-for-profit, and I've been invited to be on the board of the biggest non-for-profit here in Metro West Massachusetts, which is SMOC, which is pretty sizable. It's managing more than $130 million of subsidies and programs, and that's my way to be connected to the community and to do something that goes beyond the business work that I do every day. So those are my board more positions.
Well, sounds good. So let's talk about Alira and what you're doing now, and what does the company really do? What's the focus?
So the focus of the company is to provide a continuum of services and proprietary technologies to the life sciences sector. So we help pharmaceutical company or biotech companies or medical device company to accelerate and increase the rate of success of their development of their solutions and products throughout the whole continuum. The idea was to develop a company that would be accountable at every turn of the development phase. So we start from regulatory and clinical trial management, market access, commercial, and we try to create a very strong glue and connection between all these services. And the very differentiating part of what we deliver is that we do this through a very patient-centric approach, which sometimes is just marketing. For us, it's an important thing. So we acquire technologies, 4 of them, that would help us to partner with patients throughout the whole continuum to deliver our services. So it might be a decentralized clinical trial platform that allows us to partner with patients in the delivery of certain type of clinical evidence. It could be a crowdsourcing platform. People say, why did you invest in a crowdsourcing platform in life sciences? Because one of the phases of development of a product is financing. So why don't we democratize also that part of research, and we give people the possibility, patients, to invest in technologies they like. So again, partnering with patients to deliver better services to our clients. That's what we do. We call it the mission of humanizing healthcare. That's what we mean for humanizing.
Got it. I saw that because, as you mentioned, it's pretty easy just to write out kind of patient-centric, and I think everybody's written that down. I hadn't seen the term sort of, humanizing healthcare beforehand, but it seems like a good approach. And do patients realize they're being partnered with? Do they feel more human when they're involved in something that Alira is doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think that I have to say, COVID kind of gave us a very big push, David, because as I always say, before COVID, I never talked at my dinner table about clinical trials or vaccines, and now I do it. And so as I'm doing it in my family, everybody does it around the globe. And they feel more empowered about what it means to be involved in care, in understanding what is a drug, in understanding what it means to have a vaccine in your body. And that empowerment made a very big part of the population more interested in collecting data and providing data to the research community to do a better job with their developments. So I think that COVID brought a lot of issues and problems, and a lot of people lost their life. But from that perspective, made the patient more empowered about their own care, and that helped us when we were talking to them. Say, now is your time, right? Download this app with us, collect this information that will help companies to improve their research path, to accelerate their research. And the most important thing is to have them make it as a partner, not just as a subject where you collect stuff. So you need to educate them. And that's what we do with our platforms, educate them on the value of their data, why giving a certain type of input might be valuable for a pharmaceutical company or a patient advocacy group, why understanding their patient journey is so key, so that companies don't make mistake about the particular usage or adherence of a particular drug. So that's how we do it. Proof of it, that we provide value to patients, is that on one of our technology platforms called HealthStoryline, it's probably the most famous one, we have about 160,000 active users, which is very unusual because for a decentralized clinical trial company, once you run a trial and the trial is done, the users are off the platform. They're not there anymore. Instead, our users, they want to keep on using the platform, the app. So all those, like 70% of those active users are coming from the subjects that were part of a study, and they said, I love this app. It helps me manage my disease. Can I keep on using it? So if you go on the App Store, you can see them. Epilepsy Health Storyline, Cardiovascular Health Storyline, Prostate Cancer Health Storyline. These are all the different versions of the app that helps them to manage their disease.
Is there a business model for Alira Health from having those sort of sustained relationships, or is that just like a byproduct and it's just a side benefit of having participated in a trial?
But patients, it depends on the sponsor if they want to remunerate the patient or not. Depends also the type of the study and the regulations. For Alira Health, there are three major ways of being remunerated, right? One is directly from the sponsor to run a study. Right? So it would be the pharma device company would pay for it. The second one is in combination with patient advocacy groups. We develop data lakes and real-world evidence data lakes with our technology, and then we together sell out or provide those data together to the pharmaceutical community or to the device community. So we get it's more of a data play, not really a service like the first one. And the third one is we do it by ourselves. So we don't do it with patient advocacy group, but we build data lakes on our own, recruiting patients on our own in a particular rare disease, and we build registries, and then we sell that data or access to those patients. But again, patients have to be aware of all that. The most important thing is transparency to patients. What does it mean for them to be part of and using that app? When you onboard on the app, you need to exactly understand what you're signing up for, and that's where we spend a lot of our time.
What is the kind of the attitude among those patients who are participating in the clinical research these days, and then maybe staying for the ongoing part of the community? You mentioned how during the pandemic, I noticed this too. Suddenly, everybody's an expert on clinical trials and what it means to have one type of approval versus another, and it's like kind of amazing to hear that. But it certainly raised the awareness among patients and think about it.
Yes.
And so how is somebody thinking about it as they're participating in a trial these days? Let's say not for COVID, but let's say for a rare disease.
Yeah, everybody participates for different reasons. Somebody maybe because they were touched by a particular condition in their family and they want to contribute to research somehow. Some others just because they have the condition and they want to use the app to be able to manage the condition. Some others just because are younger generation and they believe that they should help our research providing data. So there are different, and it really depends the age and the typology of users. Really depends on the disease. Like for example, if you think about, I suffer from irritable bowel syndrome. Basically, whenever you have some stomach ache, which the doctor doesn't know what is connected to, it tells you got IBS. So it's the trash can of, and you have a lot of young people on that, for example, because it's a common issue that a lot of people are having, intolerances to different type of food and everything. Whereas if you think about CNS, you have to have a little bit older population, and they want to be involved just to understand and predict if something is going on with their cognitive or something is going on with their nervous system, right? So different phases, different profiles based on the condition.
You know, it's certainly been an interest when you talk about patient-centered trials. The FDA wants to see this, and I think when the pharma companies are now going to FDA to get their protocols approved, they will get asked, you know, what has been the patient input into this? And they have their own self-interest as well about, you know, what's the burden going to be on a patient to participate in a trial? It'll affect recruitment and retention and so on. But there's also kind of other, you know, forms of data that the patient isn't supplying, you know, directly, like typing something in or giving somebody a response, but that you could do from, let's say, a wearable device or sensors. And how do you incorporate that into what you do with Alira today, and how do you see that changing?
Yeah. So all our technology platforms that are based on the EPRO, electronic patient reported outcome, they are functioning also with API, with IoT, so Internet of Things, so wearables that are directly connected. Those tend to be less subject to the user, right? That are just taking directly information without the user having to filter them. It really depends on the TA and the conditions you're trying to manage. Obviously, there is a lot around cardiovascular, as you might know. There is a lot about in dermatology. Whenever you have a good development of IoT in telemedicine, is where then they start also to be implemented in clinical research, right? Because you want that to be proven in real world life, and then you're using them also on the clinical research side. So that's for sure, and it's growing. Is the growing market. But I think that the first thing is really to treat the patient with empathy. They are human beings. And you might discard that, but there are a lot of situations where the device, for example, the drug, might work from a mechanical and chemical perspective, but the patient is not feeling it. Is not still in a condition where he's enjoying his or her life. And I think that is important to log in and to connect and to understand that. Because obviously you want a patient feeling better and active in the society. You just don't want to fix from a chemical or mechanical point of view the issue. And those are the important soft, as they call it. I don't think they're soft, they should be hard, but point of feedback that you want to collect to make sure there is real effectiveness in the use of a drug or a device in the life of a patient.
So there's been a lot of kind of evolution and rapid growth over the last few years. As you look ahead the next 5 years or so, what do you see coming in terms of the evolution of your space?
I think that one thing that we are trying to ride as a big trend, and probably maybe we are a little bit too soon in doing that, but we want to be on the forefront of it, is the empowering, the understanding that patients feel empowered and they understand the value of the data, and they understand how high quality the data they provide have to be. Right now, most of the high quality data comes from the care providers, from claim data, from payers. It comes from the hospitals. The patient data usually is seen as, these are not high quality data. Now, patients are getting a lot more educated on how to input the data, how to get data. The wearables are helping a lot with that, right, too. And so you're going to have more move towards understanding the longitudinal data on a patient, so throughout the whole condition he has, that is not only connected to the claim data on the provider's data, but is really coming directly from the patient. And nobody else can understand better the longitudinal data of a patient than the patient himself or herself, right? You follow the patient, it gives you the information, you know exactly what is happening to him or to her. And you don't have to put a puzzle together with the claim data, many things. So that's where I think it's going. And sooner or later, the patients will realize, I want to get paid for it. So that's the blockchain cryptocurrency, all the things that are going to grow, and say, so now guys, I'm in charge of my data, but I want to be remunerated for it. So I think there's going to be some market for it.
Sounds
soon.
good. Now, I wanted to ask you, I saw an announcement about an acquisition of Red Crow. Maybe you talked about this a little bit before I referred to it, but what is that, and why buy it?
So Red Crow is one of the acquisitions that we've made that they tell me I'm crazy. Why you did that? I mean, you were a strategic consultant before, so you might understand the complexity of adding to a clinical research business a crowdsourcing platform, FINRA regulated, and SEC, right? So, well, why are you doing that? And again, it responds to the same mission I told you at the beginning, the democratization of life sciences research, the humanization of life sciences research. How can I empower patients to be an active part in the financing phase, not only in the clinical, in the real world evidence, in the commercial, but in the financing? You do it through a crowdsourcing platform. And that's why we bought it, because that's the way for us to involve patients in the financing world too. And that's, people say it's very forward-looking, but a little crazy. But hey, the acquisition is going well. They're getting a lot of attention.
It's great. It's like not as crazy as having a sixth child or something like that. So,
hey, we stopped working on that. 5 is okay.
Very good. So, last question I have for you is about whether you have any time for reading. If there's any books that you might recommend to our listeners and viewers, or any that you might recommend that we stay away from.
I'm not a big, I have to say, that's one thing that I'm not very good at. I'm not a big reader. And I always, actually, my wife tells me, Gabriele, you know less amount of words and terminologies than our kids. It's true, actually. I should read a lot more. What I can suggest to people, though, and try to really be selective on what you read on the internet, and where the source of where you read information from. For example, the thing about empowering patients we discussed before is a double-edged sword, as you were saying, David, because people start to believe in everything they see on the internet. And it's very easy to say this is scientific information or evidence, and then you look at the references, and the references are crap. Sorry for the word. So always try to keep a very strong, diligent eye on what you're reading on the internet, especially around healthcare. Sadly, is becoming a play of aggressive marketing and aggressive campaigns. And so you don't have to believe everything you read, and you need to go at the scientific level and understand resources and the references. In terms of book, I always like historical books. And they are all in Italian, so I wouldn't know how to suggest those for an English.
Well, you can suggest people.
The writer is called Manfredi. Manfredi is the writer. Very good history books, but I don't know if there is any translation.
All right. Well, listen, it's a reason for people to learn Italian. It can suggest that they do that, and then they can read it and see if it was all worth it.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, my guest today is Gabriele Brambilla, founder and CEO of Alira Health. Gabriele, thank you so much for joining me today on the HealthBiz podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, David. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to the HealthBiz podcast with me, David Williams, president of Health Business Group. I conduct in-depth interviews with leaders in healthcare business and policy. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite service. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe on your second and third favorite services as well. There's more good stuff to come, and you won't want to miss an episode. If your organization is seeking strategy consulting services in healthcare, check out our website, healthbusinessgroup.com.